Deep Threat Sports Network. We're back at it again. We've got Colin to my right, maybe your left, depending on how it looks on your screen. We've also got Bryant Vessel, the one and only from Mizzou Athletics, with us. So we know it's been a while since we're out here, but hey, we're excited. We know college football is not in session, but hey, there has been a lot going on in college football between the Nico situation at Tennessee, people transferring left and right, coaches leaving. But the big thing that's coming up is the NFL draft. So a lot of these top level players are moving into the NFL ranks. And for those of you that don't know, the first NFL draft was actually held in 1936. You think about how long it's been. I mean, it's almost been 100 years of the NFL draft. So 100 years of college players making that next step to the next level. And just for a fun fact, since 2015, 8 of the first 10 picks have been quarterbacks. I mean, obviously, a quarterback can define your season. Let's look at the Patriots with Tom Brady. Colin, I know you're smirking over there about Tom Brady. You look at Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they can make or break your team. So it's going to be an exciting time for all these guys to be able to get to that next step and really make that splash and fulfill their dreams of getting there. Because yes, the college level is amazing and it's awesome. You want to be the number one player at a high school, but hey, you just want to go pro. You want to be a professional athlete. And while we're at that, I got one question. Who are you taking at number one overall? I mean, if you are the Titans, who do you take? I mean, I'm going to go ahead and tell you who I'm going to take because we've talked about it all season long. I'm going to take Travis Hunter at number one. Now, I know most people are thinking Cam Ward, most people are thinking other people, but hey, there's a lot of upside of Travis Hunter, but I'm gonna go ahead and let Colin and Bryant give you guys who they would go with number one because I know they're not gonna agree.
Yeah, if I'm Tennessee, I'm leaning on their defensive side of the ball. I'm going Abdul Carter from Penn State. This is a generational type pick there on the outside linebacker / defensive end position. The dude gets some pressure on the quarterback at almost 20% of the snaps he's on the field. That's insanity. I think the NFL average is like 4 or 5 at the most. So if you can get somebody like that on your team, a guy that's played in big time games and contributed in big time games, I think that's a no brainer. Yeah, their quarterback position is iffy with Will Levis, but I think they can ride him for a few more seasons and try to bolster up the other side of the ball, which has been kind of rough for them in the past few years.
Man, for me, Brian, I love Abdul Carter. Absolute stud. Nothing you said is incorrect. He is an absolute unit. But for me, for anybody out there that's followed along with our shows all through the college football season, everybody out there knows I am high on Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's a real difference maker. I think he's the real deal. And if your team does need a quarterback, he is the guy to go get, especially if you are in full control at the first pick. I also know that the Titans, man, they took Levis, 2 years ago in 2023, like with the first pick in the second round or something along those lines. So I do probably assume they're a little hesitant to do this again, seeing as how they just did this not that long ago. Probably not going to be able to move Will Levis and get a whole lot for him. I mean, you may get something very, very small in return for him if you move on from him. But I'm telling you, the difference between Cam Ward and Will Levis, I feel, is a lot. Will Levis has had a little bit of time here, not a ton, but a little bit to kind of get his feet wet and feel like he would take that next step. And to be honest, I never really saw it a whole hell of a lot. Bryant, you're more our NFL guy on this show. I mean, you really dive into the NFL stuff a lot. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't think Will Levis is the answer. And I kind of feel like the Titans are wanting to move in the direction of kind of win now. They got some good receivers. Hey, Cam Ward just played a little bit of Fortnite and dropped every single one of them out there, talking about how they're the best receivers in the league. So you kind of get that vibe that he's feeling like he's trying to bolster his spot and going 1-1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. So if I'm the Tennessee Titans and I have the first pick, I would hate to miss out on what I feel is a very damn good talent in Cam Ward.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to miss out on honestly either pick, whether it's Hunter, Cam Ward, or Abdul Carter. I think all three of those players, are 1A, B, and C. But going back to Will Levis, he hasn't had many weapons to throw the ball to, kind of like a Bryce Young type situation. So I could see them he's still on a rookie contract, giving him 2 more years to try to figure it out and bolster up the other side of the ball, like I mentioned. And if it doesn't, honestly, they'll probably lose a lot of games and be right back in this position pretty close. So
So
Yeah, I agree with all of you.
do you guys think Tennessee is also looking to like let's look ahead to like next year's draft? Like, is there any quarterbacks that they might want to get next year, and hold off for this year? Because, like you said, Brian, Will Levis still, if he's got the right receivers, the right people, working with him, he may be able to perform, at because again, Cam Ward, yes, I agree with Colin. Like I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. Not that they're very deep this year, but at the same time, I think he's solid. And I think he's really good. I think he is going to be successful at the NFL level. But again, if you've already kind of made that mistake being Tennessee once, you're kind of iffy to make that same one again. And that's why I was saying, I'd take Travis Hunter because listen, worst case scenario, he's either going to be decent at cornerback or at wide receiver. Like I feel like
Well, I mean,
he
Dave,
can't be bad at both.
while you're talking about him, a question I guess for all of us is what do you do about the Travis Hunter situation? I mean, I read a report today, I don't know how true it is, that he came out and said if a team takes him to not play both sides of the ball, he's not playing. Like so I also think that's just him trying to stand his ground, and I get it because he's done it since high school. It's worked. I didn't think it would work at the Division 1, power conference level in college, and it did. So I was wrong on that. But man, it's crazy to think that he can go do that and compete at that high of a level in the NFL ranks too, right? I mean, Brian, what do you think? Like, do you draft him knowing that okay, I guess I'm going to play him both ways?
Um, Two things on this. I think he's blown a lot of smoke. I think he's I think he's the type of person that doesn't want to get drafted super high to a poor team. He'd like to get maybe slide just a hair just to get to a little better team. I think that's part of it. But back to your question, the second question there is, I think you have to handle this a lot like the Raiders and or the Packers handled Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson was a two-way player at Michigan back in the 90s, early 2000s, was basically Travis Hunter back then. And when he came in, he primarily picked one side of the ball, but played sparingly on the other side of the ball to kind of, give him the flavor of what he wanted to do coming into the league. So I think if you're a team, you pick him to play on one side of the ball and then give him some snaps at wide receiver or on punt return or something like that to kind of make him happy. That would be how I would handle it.
Would you guys agree that I think he's better off just being primarily a cornerback and then just give him a couple snaps at wide receiver? Like I think he has more upside at the cornerback position than he does at wide receiver.
But the problem with that is you put him in the game, they're going to try to throw him the ball. So teams are just going to key in on that. So you almost have to do either or play him for full drives at a time rather than snaps here and there.
I'm going to be one of the guys on the flip side of this where I feel like it's the unpopular opinion when it comes down to Travis Hunter and say that I think he should primarily play wide receiver. And the reason why I think he should primarily play wide receiver is because he is a true difference maker with the ball in his hands. I feel like that is where Travis Hunter is best, when the ball is in his hands. He makes spectacular catches. He gets open. He's extremely fast. He gets separation. He can play underneath. He can take off the top. I think that truly he is best at the wide receiver position. I also don't always feel like he was matched up throughout his collegiate career against the best wide receivers in the country. I don't feel like being in the conference that they were in at Colorado in the Big 12 and playing for Jackson State in the HBCU conference, I don't feel like he was matched up against day in and day out NFL talent wide receivers. So, with that being said, I feel like it's an easier transition for him to go in, play wide receiver, get the ball into his hands, and let him be explosive rather than to come in here and cover guys that are elite level talent at the receiver position across the board. Cornerback is a very, very, very hard position. If it comes down to just being a cornerback, there are quite a few cornerbacks, some that I'm going to mention later in this episode, that I would take over him. And quite frankly, I'll just throw it out now. I would take Will Johnson at cornerback over him. I would take Jahdae Barron at cornerback over him. You throw him in the receiver side of the situation, you can make a case that he might be the first receiver you take in this draft.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think going back to high school and even college, the wide receiver position for him is the better spot. So I can definitely agree with you there, Colin, that I think if you draft him, wide receiver is the main position, and maybe you get him some snaps in a dire situation somewhere on the defensive side of the ball or special teams or somewhere else on the field. So we'll see how it goes, but it is intriguing that he's making such a big deal about this.
Well, to your point, and just kind of wrap this up, and we'll move on to our top players at these positions. it'd be nice to have that depth, right? You get a few banged up guys at the secondary position on the defensive side of the ball, and you feel comfortable putting him out there to try to hold his own. So I'm making a stance. I'm drafting you at wide receiver. Hey man, if we're not going to play you on both sides of the ball and you're going to retire, I guess let her rip, man. I don't. You're not going to retire. Like what you're not retiring.
No.
So you can blow that all day long. I do agree, Brian. I didn't think about it the way you just said it. It might be his way to get himself pushed back a little bit to a better team. Smart play.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to go play for the bad teams either. So, Dave, take us away. I know you got a big shit eating grin. We're talking about Travis Hunter for like 3 minutes now. I've had enough of the Travis Hunter talk. His number just got retired. It's absurd. Move us on to these top player positions here for the NFL draft, Dave.
Yeah, so a player, a position that, we've already kind of hinted at, and I think we're all in the consensus that this, let's go to quarterback position. I mean, I think we are all in agreement that Cam Ward is the guy to go for in this draft class. What do you, I guess from you guys' perspective, why does Cam Ward stand out above everyone else? And especially because let's go ahead and bring up obviously the hot topic of Shedeur Sanders. I saw something funny that said earlier, he was basically just Dion but slow, and I was just like, okay, that's tough. But what is it just the fact that this quarterback class isn't that deep, or is Cam Ward just that good? What do you guys think?
I think it's a combination of the two. If you want to talk Shedeur real quick, I really do think that Shedeur Sanders is the toughest quarterback in this draft. Personally, I think he's gonna try to put the team on his back and win you football games. On the flip side of that, Cam Ward I think is also the same type of player, but Shedeur Sanders I think has faced a little bit more adversity as far as who he played and the team around him and in college that he can prepare for being under pressure a little bit more, getting sacked a bunch. He's able to bend his game around that type of play from the defense he's seeing. That being said, he didn't really play very hard teams in college and was 13-11 as a starter. So personally, I think Cam Ward is one. I think Jackson Dart is two, and I think Shedeur is at three. But going back to Shedeur, personally, if I'm a team that's drafting him, I just don't want the baggage that goes along with picking that guy. Yeah, he
Yes.
has a lot of upside, but you're going to have all the lights on you, and it's going to be bad more times than it is good. I feel like so that would be what I would be leery about with him.
I think for me, Bryant, and to kind of touch on a little bit of what you just said. So, talking about how Shedeur is tough, I agree, man. There's no doubt. I mean, when you watched him at Colorado, the offensive line had a lot of question marks a lot of times, but he did have some star-studded receivers. We're sitting here talking about how maybe Travis Hunter would be the number one receiver in the draft that we would take. I look at Cam Ward, and to me, he is the definition of resilient, the definition of hard work, the definition of a gamer. This guy started his career out at Akron at Ward, worked his way up, was a no-star recruit out of high school, came through the ranks, went to Washington State, lit it up there. And then last season, every team could not wait to get their hands on Cam Ward. I think it came down to Florida State and Miami. Talked about this on our ACC review and why Florida State crumbled so bad. They had all their eggs in one basket thinking they were going to get Cam Ward. Goes to Miami, makes Miami an instant contender. Talked about on that same ACC show. If Cam Ward had any other head coach other than Mario Cristobal this last season, Cam Ward's taking a team to probably the Final Four, if not the finals, of a college football playoff series. I mean, this was a really, really good quarterback. I think that he is the epitome of everything I just said. I would feel comfortable taking him 1-1 overall. I love everything he brings to the table. Now, look, to give some negativity on what I see in Cam Ward is there are times where he holds onto the ball a little bit too long. There are times where he looks for the home run every single snap. He drops back, three-step drop, and he is looking to throw an absolute 60-yard bomb every single play first. Sometimes and when you get to the NFL and you get better coaching around you other than Mario Cristobal, and yes, I'm going to shit on Mario Cristobal every chance I get. You get to the NFL and get better coaching around you, and they teach you, hey, man, take the 5-yard underneath route. This guy's open. Hey, dump it off to the halfback. Let him go get a couple yards. You don't always have to go deep. You don't have to hold on to the ball and try to evade pressure and avoid the sack. So for me, I think you fix that problem. I think Cam Ward has all the intangibles that you need to build a successful franchise around him. I love the situation that he could go to the Tennessee Titans, but I do think it all comes down to coaching again at the Titans for Cam Ward. Bryant, would you not agree that when you look at all these NFL drafted quarterbacks, it really comes down to the situation they're drafted into? It really comes down to coaching. sometimes it just doesn't work. You see elite level college talent go to the NFL at the quarterback position, and sometimes because of the situation and coaching, it just does not work.
I mean, there's two perfect examples I can talk about right now in the NFL, and I kind of mentioned earlier. If Cam Ward goes to Tennessee and it's like Bryce Young and Panthers, it's not going to be good. He has nobody around him. He got benched because he was playing so bad because he was getting sacked a bunch. No players to throw the ball to. Everybody else was young around him. He had no room to grow. And then also, I think Trevor Lawrence is another situation in Jacksonville when they had Urban Meyer in there and Jack Del Rio when he first started. Same situation. You're drafted to that high to come and save a team, but a lot of these guys they're not Superman. They can't save and put the whole entire team on their back, and that's what's risky about all these picks and going so high. So yeah, if Cam Ward goes to Tennessee, I think that's a little better situation than those two I just talked about, and he's definitely the type of player that can elevate a team of guys that may not be up to his level or levels of the defenses they're playing against. So we'll see, but 100% agree with you. Cam Ward is, I think, one by far as this quarterback class is concerned.
And to stay the quarterbacks a little bit, because I don't just want to talk about Cam Ward and then name drop Shadur. I find it interesting too, Bryant, that you think Jackson Dart's the second best quarterback off the board. I'm right there with you. I think Jackson Dart has some serious upside. I think Jackson Dart is another definition of a gamer. I think he's very QB smart. I think he makes the right reads. The only thing for me that I've kind of seen from Jackson Dart in his career, early on at USC and then going to Ole Miss, is there's a little bit of inconsistency, right? I mean, sometimes you come in and you don't get good Jackson Dart. You make some bad reads and things don't go well. Sometimes you get really good first-round potential Jackson Dart. I think you settle into some consistency, get him a good quarterback room to rely on. I think that there is some real upside for him to be a difference maker for an organization. Circling back to Dave's original question, this is a really bad quarterback class. And I don't want to sound so harsh about it, but this is a very thin quarterback class. I think one of the best quarterbacks in this draft, I'm going to talk about later in our sleeper segment, and he's going to go later in the draft, and I think he could be a real difference maker. And for me, I only feel real comfortable, though, taking Cam Ward in the first round of this draft.
I want to touch on Jackson Dart a little bit. He's been shooting. He did really good at the combine in his pro day. He's kind of been shooting up draft boards from just those two workouts he's had and some private workouts he's had with other teams. I think he's probably going to get drafted in the first round, if not early second, just from what I'm seeing / reading. I agree with you. He does have some issue with his consistency. And we saw it this year. He tends to hone in on one single receiver and throw that ball to that guy a bunch. So, like you mentioned with Cam Ward has issues holding on to the ball. I think coaching staffs in the NFL could help Jackson Dart focus on his weaknesses and improve on them. But that dude is athletic as all get out. He can use his legs and get out of the pocket the best of them. And he also has a cannon of a right arm as well. So there's a reason Jackson Dart is shooting up draft boards and all the amount of drafts we're seeing. And I'm right there with you. I think he's the second best quarterback in this draft.
Dave, before we move on from the quarterbacks, I'm looking through our notes here, and I see you have another quarterback wrote down that you want to talk about. I want to hear your take on this a little bit. And you might be you hit the home run with Travis Hunter, and early on in the 2024 season about winning the Heisman, and Bryant and I were wrong, and you were right. So enlighten me on this guy that you want to talk about here.
Yeah, so I have Jalen Merrill, and again, part of that is because there's really not much there at the quarterback position.
You have Jalen Milroe wrote down not being your first quarterback, I hope.
Oh,
right?
No. I feel like I don't think he'll ever be a starter, but I think he could be a really good backup. I love his dual threat option because he can run the ball. I would almost argue as good as a lot of the average running back. I mean, the guy can run, but now his passing that needs some work. But I feel like again, you get him with the right coaching where just make the right pass. Work on your passing. Listen, I'm sorry, but you're a quarterback. You should be able to pass. That should be the one thing that you're good at.
Okay, so I have two questions for you. We're talking about the quarterback position. You're right. Runs the ball fantastic. I mean, he is very, very good with the ball in his hands. He's a difference maker. He'll run your ass over. Or he'll run right around you. That's what makes Jalen Milroe good. My pushback on that is we're talking about the quarterback position, and he can't throw the ball. He throws a really good deep ball, and that's it. And we're talking about getting him with the right coaching. I sit back and look at this. Dude, he just played with Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer. Like, are there actually NFL coaches better than those two? Like, seriously. I don't know there's an NFL coach better than Nick Saban. And Kalen DeBoer is a quarterback whisperer, just made Michael Penix look like Mike Vick. I mean, so, like, does it actually get better? Does it actually get better for Jalen Milroe, or did Jalen Milroe just work with the absolute best of the best at playing the type of game that he wanted to play?
I can agree that may be his ceiling at this point. That where he's at may be his ceiling. Yeah, no, I agree.
I think Milroe at best case is like poor man's RG3, in my opinion. That's his ceiling. But looking at some of the stuff, Jalen Milroe will get drafted higher than us three and a lot of other people think. I mean, the dude got invited to Thursday night in the NFL draft. You don't get invited to that unless you're propaganda for the cameras or you're getting drafted really high. So somebody's going to pick him, and it's going to seem like a stupid pick. I don't think he can develop. I could see a position change for him. Jalen Milroe almost reminds me a lot of, if old Mizzou fans remember Brad Smith back in the day. The dude could run the ball like crazy, but he really couldn't pass that well. And he switched to wide receiver. So that could be a possibility, but Jalen Milroe as a quarterback will not succeed in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be an absolute perfect scenario. I mean, when I say perfect, like better than perfect scenario for me to see Jalen Milroe work out. And that's not dogging on him. I think he needed to come back for another year of college, and if that meant transferring for him, I think that was the move that he should have made. I think he had to prove that there's still some more development. I think he had to prove that he could read a defense. I think he had to prove that he could throw a 15-yard pass better than he could throw the consistency of a 60-yard pass. The bombs are cool, but they're not always there, especially in the NFL. You're not like when you're playing at Alabama, you are leaps and bounds better than most teams that you play every single Saturday. When you're in the NFL, it's a pretty even matchup for the most part, week in and week out.
The only good thing I think you can say about Jalen Milroe is he has played in a lot of big time games, and he's won a lot of them. Yeah, he also has, probably lost a few games for the team. You can think back to the 23 playoff in that game against Michigan, something like that. But he's played in big time games, and he's not going to be scared to step in and do that. That's why I think Dave's note about being a good backup is probably the option that the route he's going to go. You can make a hell of a living being an NFL backup quarterback without playing many games. So I think if I'm him, that's what I'm hoping for.
Mizzou fans know Chase Daniel, baby. Hell of a career as a backup, play a few games here and there. Dave, take us on to the next position, brother.
So speaking of running, the next position we're going to look at is running backs. You looking at our notes, it's very interesting because I had the same thought as I was going through running backs, and I was like, man, I just hate running backs are I think a very important part of your offense. If you got a good running back core, it takes a lot of pressure off your quarterback, off your receivers. But they don't get the appreciation that they should because again, their longevity is not real great because again, they're taking a lot of hits, and we're talking grown men, But I think we can all agree who's going to be the number one pick for at the running back position. Colin's been on about him all week long, all season long, since he heard about the guy. So let's talk about running backs. You know what, Brian? Let me hear who you got at running back because we all know who Colin has, and all of our viewers know who Colin's going to have as number one running back.
So real quick, last year was a quarterback heavy draft, and I feel like it's the opposite of this season, like we talked about. For the running back position, it was pretty poor last season, but this season is absolutely stacked. Like, it is insane. I mean, there's 8 guys you could talk about possibly going in the first round, but that's not going to happen because the NFL running back position is a dime a dozen these days. It seems like ever since Ezekiel Elliott signed that contract with the Cowboys and Todd Gurley with the Rams about 10 years ago, where they threw a bunch of money at him and then bit him in the ass. Teams are basically giving you your rookie contract and then they're letting you go. That's just how it is. It sucks because these guys are the backbones of most every team that they're on. Good teams have good running backs. You saw it this past season. The Eagles had Saquon Barkley. He was the best running back in the league and then won Super Bowl. So, go back to the picks in this draft. Obviously, we all know Genty's number one. That dude is an absolute animal. Only worry I have about him is wearing his body already. He's older for a running back draft prospect, and he has run the ball 5,000 times in his life. So he's probably beat up a little bit, but the the weight staff and the staff and the training and the weights in the NFL will definitely help him kind of mitigate that. Some of these it's so hard to pick. I put in my note here, there's so many players like, I think you can talk about Caleb Johnson. We talked a little bit this past season with him in Heisman talks on our show. I think that was warranted. You can look at the guy from UNC Hampton. He had insane stats, and there's so many others. I mean, it's 1A and then it's 1B times 10 with all these running backs, in my opinion. There's so many guys we can talk about.
Brian, I'm honestly going to name all 8 of these guys that we're referring to here.
There we go.
Just because they're so damn good, and just because they need that credit, and just because I do think that there's a case that all 8 of these guys should go in the first round. There's no could about it because it's not going to happen, but should go in the first round. We have Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, Caleb Johnson, Cam Scatterbo, Dylan Sampson, Ollie Gordon. And to touch on Ashton Jeanty, Dave's right. Everybody on this that listens to our show knows my first pick that I would damn near make like second overall would be Ashton Jeanty. True difference maker, absolute freak show at the running back position. This guy is a monster. I don't need to make a bigger case for this guy, but I'm going to surprise both of you. I'm going to throw out his negatives right now. Struggles catching the football at times, and the tread on the tires is thin. Brian talked about the wear and tear. There is nobody that's running the football maybe more than Ashton Jeanty coming into this draft. So, yes, that is kind of scary. But what's crazy about that guy is I never saw the guy wear down. I never saw the guy take plays off. The dude bit down on the mouthpiece, asked for the ball again, and ran it. The other team knew he was going to run the ball, and he ran it anyway. Doesn't matter. Didn't care. Came right at you. Yes, work on the pass catching a little bit, but he's so damn good. I mean, he is a true difference maker. But also, circling back to some of the other guys, fellas, we are a year removed from Ollie Gordon being talks about a true first-round draft pick running back. I know that his year at Oklahoma State wasn't that great, especially for Ollie Gordon standards. But, boys, that team was ass. Everybody knew Ollie Gordon was getting the ball. Their offensive line was trash. That any 3 of us on this show right now could go past the football better than their quarterbacks could last year. They had some good receivers, but it didn't matter because they couldn't get the ball to them. And like I said, the offensive line was terrible. I think Ollie Gordon is a true difference maker at running back. I think what you see here, though, is Jeanty and maybe possibly Omarion Hampton go in the first round. After that, I think you sprinkle these guys in at any situation, and they are going to be difference makers. This is the best running back draft I can remember in quite some time.
No, it's definitely insane. And I agree with you on Ollie Gordon. The dude had over 2,000 yards all purpose in 2023, 1,700 yards plus rushing and another 400 almost catching the ball with 22 touchdowns. I mean, he just had a bad year, bad team. So, yeah, he's way down a lot of these boards. I think you can argue him, being higher. But like you mentioned, I mean, even we got 2 teammates on here that are insane with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. You're totally correct. And I mentioned it earlier. I think you can plug and play any one of these players besides obviously Genty's the best, but any of the other guys you mentioned. And I got another guy I want to talk about in our sleeper pick later at the running back position that could also be very good, I think, as well. So you can plug and play any one of these guys in. The problem is, all of them won't work out. It's just how it goes. But I think you have a pretty good hit rate if you're taking one of these running backs that we just mentioned.
Well, and how many times this season did we talk to your point a second ago about Caleb Johnson? How many times did we talk about Dylan Sampson? Like those guys were all floating around Heisman conversations at one point in time last season. And then you see Cam Scatterbo come in and have the best playoff performance of anybody in the playoffs damn near. I mean, dude, it's crazy how deep this is. And what inclines me to like Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson a lot is there's a lot of tread on those tires. The opposite of Jeanty. Those guys split carries. I mean, there's the abuse wasn't there last season like it was on some of these other players in this. But, man, I cannot wait to see how the running backs unfold because I am overly happy that we finally have a absolute loaded down running back room.
And, I think one more point on the running backs. I think what you're going to see a lot is I think the running backs who will get drafted higher besides Jeanty are guys that have a little bit better aptitude to catch the ball, the backfield. NFL teams love that. They like the Austin Eckler type player that can run the ball and catch. So you may see a guy like Hampton or Sampson fall, and you may see a guy like Henderson and Judkins kind of go up a little bit because those guys can catch the ball out of the backfield. So we'll see. You know, we're probably it seems like every time we talk about this on mock drafts and everything, they're not right. So, you know, we'll get shocked at some point with one of these picks, probably where they go. But I think that's going to be the X factor a lot of these teams are going to look at as far as this position and these players.
Well, we'll see. I mean, heck, Ashton Jeanty could not be the first one off the board at this rate with how things are going. You never know. I mean, I think he will. I 100% think he will, and he should, but you never know. So another position we would definitely want to talk about is a wide receiver position. I know Colin and Bryant, we were talking earlier. I think they got some disagreement there at the wide receiver position. I personally agree with Colin. But Colin, you tell us who you got at going first at wide receiver, and then Brian, you can tell us why you disagree.
Well, a little bit kind of the opposite about the running backs here, kind of almost in line with the quarterbacks, is kind of a down year, I would say, for the receiver position, right? I mean, you look at all these last couple seasons, and it's just you could go down a list of, like we just did with the running backs, you go down a list of 8, 10 players, and you're just like, good Lord, I would love my team to have that guy. I feel like at the receiver position, it's a little bit shorter of a list. And yes, Bryant and I don't necessarily align on this a little bit. And hey, that's going to make some things interesting. That makes for a good topic of conversation. I feel like Bryant and I both know our shit. And for the most part, we align. And, you know, not to sound like those guys, for the most part, when we align, we're right. So I'm interested to see what he has to say about this too. But my top receiver in this draft is Tedderoa McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. And for me, why I like this guy so much is he's just a big damn receiver, right? He's 6'4", 219 pounds, massive hands, had a 4.5 40 time. And I truly think he's a plug and play wide receiver number one. I think he goes in and truly makes a difference. I know he was paired up with his high school teammate, Noah Fafita, at Arizona, who was his quarterback. I do think that has some chemistry, but also on the flip side of that, unfortunately, I don't think Noah Fafita was very damn good. So I think he goes out here and can find a better quarterback that can get him the ball more successfully. And I like Tedderoa McMillan even more. Honestly, I'm going to make the case that he's arguably one of my favorite players in this whole entire draft. I had somebody come up to me that follows our show very closely, and they said, if you had to pick one player in this draft that you think would be the most successful player coming out of it in the first round, my answer was Tedderoa McMillan. I really do think he's that guy. And also, with all that being said, it is a very big risk for me to say all those things because the bust is obviously there. I mean, when you have this high of expectations and you're a first round pick, the bust is honestly higher than the boom. It is more likely to happen if you play out the probabilities in the odds. He's just a big, athletic receiver and truly makes a difference. Crisping up the routes a little bit, and I think he'll be pretty damn good.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in on this. Obviously, Dave kind of alluded to this. I disagree for the most part with Ted McMillan and where he's gonna and where he's at in this draft for me. I personally don't think he's a bad player. I think he's actually very good. But where I think he's just a bust pick for me at where he's going. He's going way too high. And I saw many videos of him saying he doesn't watch film. He doesn't necessarily like football. The only time he watches film is when the wide receiver group is watching it. And that just kind of jumps out to me as a guy that maybe doesn't is not fully invested. Yeah, they were having a bad season this year. He may have said something off the cuff that he didn't mean. But personally, I just don't see it. But that's just in my eyes. And sometimes the tape, it seems like he's taking plays off. It feels like to me, I really don't think he's that good of a route runner. I think he only gets open on straight streaks and digs across the middle. I don't think he can run a dynamic route like you have to in the NFL, personally. And he was literally the only option on that team for the most part. So he was getting thrown the ball 15 times a game. I mean, anybody really is going to put up that amount of pretty good stats if you get thrown the ball that much. So I could obviously be wrong too. I do think he's one of the more physically gifted players in this draft, but in the NFL, it doesn't always get you where you need to be. So that's where I'm at. I think at best, this guy is a Devontae Adams like player where he's a possession receiver on the outside that can jump and get you the ball. I don't think he's going to be Devontae Adams, but if he can be a shadow of that, I think he can be good in the NFL, but I just don't see it.
Well, and I kind of alluded to this too, right? I am inclined to agree with you on the flip side of where he is going in the draft. Yeah, like the bust is there. Like that's what I was kind of getting at a second ago. I mean, when you're in the first round, or especially when you're in the early first round, or you're the first at your position taken off the board, there's a lot of expectations that come with that. And yes, you could fail way easier than you can succeed. So I totally hear where you're coming from. I don't disagree necessarily with anything that you said. But also with that being said too, like you still have to be pretty competent and pretty damn good to still get the ball every single time. I mean, you still have to find yourself open. I mean, so it goes hand in hand. I'm interested to see how it plays out. You know, maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong, and then that is definitely in play. Now, if he can become Devontae Adams, that's pretty damn successful in my eyes as a
Absolutely.
receiver, you know, in the NFL draft. So, I just hope he doesn't become the next like Justin Blackman or something. You know,
I
where
was
he
literally
just,
going to bring up Justin Blackman too. I was like, let's
I mean,
hope. Granted, he doesn't have all the drug problems that Justin Blackman had, but
yeah,
that's the type of comparison I'm talking to as far as
yeah.
picking a guy so high and then bam, he's gone.
No, I mean it's absolutely in play. I mean, there's no
Yeah,
doubt. And dude, and that's really the risk we take with all these guys. We're talking about what 20, 21, 22-year-old kids. I mean, at 20, 21, and 22, my head wasn't on straight. I knew both of you. I mean, none of our heads were on straight at that time. So that's the risk you really take with all of this. And I feel like maybe his comments and his concerns came out of emotion, right? I mean, it sucks when you're losing, dude. So I don't know. I hope he gets the right coaching, and I hope they express to him that, dude, you ran a 4.5 40. You're 6'4", 220 pounds. You have everything you need to take the next level in your NFL career.
you know, I think there's a 50-50 chance here that he's really good or a bust. I just personally don't think I think he's going to get covered, not easily, but I think he's going to get covered a lot more than he did in college. I think he's going to have a harder time getting open. But that's just where I'm at, and we'll see. I got a couple other guys I want to talk about real quick at wide receiver position, and then I'll throw it back to you, Colin and Dave. Personally, we kind of talked about it earlier. I think Travis Hunter is the best prospect at this position. That's if he plays it as his main position, which I think he will, but that's to be seen. And then if he does play both ways, I think this is his main position. So we'll see if he can stay healthy. And we talked plenty about Travis Hunter, so I'm gonna move on here. The two best in this draft, in my opinion, are Emeka Buka out of Ohio State and Luther Burden III from Mizzou. Both are team first guys, proven players, had up and down seasons. Both had great 2023 seasons. I personally think Ibuka is the best route runner and pass catcher in this draft. That dude is insane. He can catch anything within, it seems like, a 5-yard radius. And then Luther Burden, I think, is the most dynamic player at the wide receiver position with the ball in his hands. That dude does not get tackled by the first person that hits him ever. You watch any highlights, it takes the fourth and fifth guy to bring him down. He looks like a running back running the ball. The only issue with him is he sometimes disappears from games. Now we might see that might have been a schemed issue or getting double covered this past season with Mizzou. But you look at the year before, he had 1,400 yards and a bowl of touchdowns. I think you can see him make a case for being a player on special teams as well, as we kind of saw in college. I think those two guys are the best two players at this position, and I'd put McMillan behind them.
Truthfully, go ahead, Dave.
No, I mean, I really like Igbuka as well. I mean, he's got lots of experience. And the big thing with me for him is, you know, he gets a lot of yards after the catch. And Brian even alluded to it, you know, his route running, great hands. And I just feel like his floor is so high that worst case scenario, he's going to be good. He's not as explosive as, let's say, like a Luther Burden. And I do really like Luther Burden, but man, one thing, and you know, maybe it's just me, but I just couldn't get past how this season at Mizzou, you know, Mizzou goes down and he's just throwing a pity party on the bench. I just, me as a coach, I don't want that on my team. I just don't. And you know, maybe you know, at the NFL level, like, you're a grown man, like, get over it. So that's my only thing with Luther Burden, but I do think he's got the talent. He's a super athletic, and I love that he is going to get a lot of yardage after the catch as well. But I do still like Ted McMillan.
I really
might
like
be
what you said
1 second.
there, Dave. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Brian.
Colin. 1 second. I might be a homer, but Justin Jefferson did more of that in college than Luther Burden did. So, and he's the best receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. So, yeah, you don't like to see him throwing a pity party and you know, pointing at the crowd and saying dumb shit, but all these guys did in college.
wide receivers are prima donnas, man. They're the biggest prima donnas on the field. It's proven. It's what they do. It is what they do. And part of me somewhat understands it. When you're the best player on the team, when you're the best difference maker on the team, and you're not getting the ball and you're losing, dude, I kind of get it. You go out there and you run 30 routes a game and you get the ball 4 times. I get it. I get it. But also at the flip side of that, like Dave said, get over it. Get open. Like if you're truly open every play and then we're just missing you, then yeah, shame on us. But yeah, I do think Luther Burden has a little bit of character issues. But to your point, Brian, it's no different than any of these other guys that played collegiate football at the Division I level. Justin Jefferson, yes, very known for this. Hell, we could go on a tangent about what receivers are known for this, right? But the one thing that Dave said that I really, really liked, and your spiel there, Dave, is about Emeka Egbuka. The floor for Emeka Egbuka is probably higher than any floor of these guys in this receiver class. The ceiling, not quite as high. Not as high as Ted McMillan, not as high as Luther Burden, not as high as Travis Hunter. I mean, we could go on about receivers that have a higher ceiling. But, yes, I think at worst, if you make a pick on Emeka Egbuka in this draft, I think at worst you have a very consistent week in and week out wide receiver 3. I mean, at worst. At worst. So I like what you said there, Dave. I am very inclined to agree with that. I don't think anybody would be wrong for taking Emeka Egbuka in the first round. And I'm going to talk about my other guy real quick. And spoiler, I might have cheated all the rules that we put in place. I took a damn tight end here because this guy to me is not a tight end. This guy to me just happens to go down in a 3-point stance every once in a while and make a few blocks. Tyler Warren, fellas, arguably one of the best players in this draft. He was a tight end at Penn State. He was a do-it-all guy at Penn State. Remove Tyler Warren from that football team, and they maybe win 7, 8 football games at best. And that's if both their running backs get loose in the backfield 6 times a game. So I really think Tyler Warren's a true difference maker. Absolute freak show. Threw a touchdown, ran a touchdown, had multiple reception touchdowns, goes up, and I know it's one of his most memorable plays from the season, goes up and he snaps the ball, runs down the field, goes up and catches a ball in triple coverage over 3 guys and brings it in and goes down for a touchdown. Truly, true difference maker. Anybody should feel comfortable taking him. An absolute freak show at the tight end position that to me feels more like a damn receiver. And like I said, just happens to hop down in a 3-point stance and make a few blocks here or there. So I cheated. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. Couldn't do the show without talking about Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I was going to mention him too, and I didn't seeing us talk about him before I saw your note here. That dude is probably one of the better players in this draft, and he checks a lot of boxes as far as, like you mentioned, he can block, he can run routes, he can even run the ball. He's going to be a good player, I think, wherever he goes. He's probably not the best at catching, he's probably not the best at running, but he's good, really good at all 3. So he's going to be a dynamic player and be hard to cover. I can see him being like a better version. I could see him being up there with some of the best tight ends in the NFL right now. Your Kittles, your Kelseys, your Laportas, those type players. He may not be a true tight end like them, but he's going to be out there on running plays. He's going to be out there. He's going to play a lot of snaps. So I'm glad you mentioned him.
Dude, I think a very good comp for him is honestly George Kittle.
Yep.
I think he is a very good comp for Kittle, and I know that's high expectations. But I'm going to be the first to tell you I'll die on this hill. I'm putting loads of expectation on Tyler Warren. Plain and simple.
I want to add one more thing real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I was looking at some stats back to Egbuka. Another thing I like about him is he's played around a lot of good receivers in his time in college, and he can either be the guy, but he's just as good as a complimentary dude. I mean, he had 1,000 yards all-purpose with Marvin Harrison on the team 2 years ago. This year he was the main dude and had 1,300 yards. And then you go back 3 years ago, and he also had 1,300 yards when he was kind of the main guy before Marvin Harrison really took off. So the guy can do it whatever role you need him to do it in. And so that's another reason I think he's probably the best receiver in this draft. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Man, well, we talked a lot of offense, so let's switch it up here a little bit, and let's go with top defensive players because this is another spot that's kind of deep. Obviously, we've talked endlessly already about Travis Hunter. I think like I said, I think he should focus on being a quarterback and try to excel at that. But even with me for him, I think he needs to put some weight on. Like he's kind of small for trying to play quarterback. And Colin, you mentioned how hard it is to play quarterback at the NFL level. But I do think he's got the athleticism. I mean, there's not a better athlete in this draft class. I mean, the guy's quick, he's fast, he's gonna stick with the best of them. Now, I just think he does need to put on some weight because he's going up against grown men at this point now. He's not going up against 17, 18, 19-year-olds. But at the same time, going back to the two-way aspect, like, is he going to be able to do both at the NFL level? Even if they do give him that opportunity. But I think Travis Hunter for me is my best defensive player. Not saying that, and by saying the best defensive player, I think he's one of the best. I'm just going to pick him because I think he should be the number one overall in general. But there is a lot of players at this position that could play very well. I don't know. You guys might disagree, but Colin, who do you have as one of your top defensive players?
Well, earlier I kind of alluded to this, and I'm going to be honest. This is the first time I'm not going to be chalky here. I've been Cam Ward, which was the top-rated quarterback. I've been Ashton Jeanty, top-rated running back. I've been Ted McMillan, who's a top-ranked receiver. And anybody that follows our show and knows me, and you two know me as well as anybody, I'm the furthest thing from chalky you can get. So I'm going to go step out a little bit here. And talking about cornerbacks, Dave, to your point, my best cornerback in this draft is Jahdae Barron, a cornerback from Texas. I mean, I'm going to talk with the negatives a little bit here. And the only negative that I see in his game is a little bit of his tackling ability. There are times where he doesn't necessarily wrap up that well. And when you get to the NFL, you are going to be going up against these bigger bodied receivers. So that could be tough at times, wrapping up and bringing those guys down. But on the flip side of this, man, when you don't let guys catch the ball and you're a ball hawk and you're breaking up passes, you don't need to be that good at tackling the guys because it doesn't matter because they're not catching the football. So, I mean, this guy is an absolute freak. I mean, he's damn near 6 feet tall, nearing in on 200 pounds, a pretty big-bodied cornerback, ran a 4.4 40 at the combine. This guy can play inside, he can play outside, he can play the nickel, and he does take great angles. So, I mean, I am all in on Jahdae Barron. And per PFF this last season, he had the best defensive passer rating against man coverage in all of college football. This guy is a plug-in day one cornerback for your football team that I feel when you match him up with some of these top receivers out there, you could feel comfortable putting him out there to try and make a play. So my pick is Jahdae Barron. I'm a big fan of what this guy brings to the table.
I'm going to go kind of the opposite of Colin here and go a little chalky. Obviously, we talked Abdul Carter already. He's the best defensive player in this draft, but I'm going to go to probably I think who the second best player is, and I think that's Shamar Stewart. I think he's the best true defensive end in this class. Yeah, he only had 4.5 sacks in his collegiate career. That dude is more of a dynamic run stopper. He can get pressure on the backside and force the quarterbacks to make bad decisions. And the guy is 6'6", 290 pounds as a defensive end. That is an absolute animal. That is a unit. There is not a running back who wants to block that guy. Tight ends, good luck. Offensive tackles, good luck. So, I think this is a very deep defensive draft from all positions. Safety, there's a few guys you can talk about. I have one as one of my sleepers. Cornerback, you can talk about a bunch, and I'm going to talk about a guy here shortly. Quarterback, also linebacker. I mean, all over the board. I think this is one of the best defensive drafts in recent memory as far as how deep it is at each position.
Well, and I think to your point, Brian, we see more defensive players go at the first 2 rounds than what maybe we're used to. And maybe that does play a role in that the receivers feel a little down and the quarterbacks feel a little down. And some of these teams don't feel the need to stretch it out and take a risk on some of these quarterbacks and receivers. So you see them just get comfortable and settle in, get out the lawn chair and take the next best available defensive player. And a guy that I'm going to talk about here that I think is right up here with Abdul Carter and Shamar Stewart. And I think he's slipping down the board for some character issues. But once again, we talked about that earlier. These guys all have character issues. And that's James Pierce, defensive lineman from Tennessee. As you guys followed along with our show all season, week in and week out, I was talking about James Pierce. And early on in our shows last season, I was talking about how there was a real case that James Pierce comes into this draft and goes number 1 overall at one point. I mean, this guy is an absolute freak. He's obviously not as big as Shamar Stewart. That dude's a behemoth. But James Pierce checks in at 6'5", 245, and the biggest attribute about him is he ran a 4.47 at the combine. This guy is big, and when you can be that big and run a 4.47 and get down the field, you are a certified freak. What scares me about him, though, is a little bit, like I said, those character issues. They have him sliding out of the first round in a lot of these mock drafts I've looked at, and that to me is crazy. If you can get this guy in the second round and you're a fan of the team that gets him in the second round, tip the cap, love it, go order a jersey. This guy's going to become your favorite player on your football team. I mean, you go back and watch him, and he just had a damn good season. It went under the radar a little bit, but, dude, he got double or chipped all game long against Ohio State in a playoff game and was still getting boundary to boundary, making guys make plays because he was forcing them to. He goes up against first-round potential offensive lineman against Alabama and at times was bullying him. I mean, I'm telling you, anybody that passes on James Pierce will regret it. If you have a chance to go get him in the room, mold him. If you're worried about his character, get him surrounded by good players on your team, get him with some leaders, get him with some guys that show how to be a real NFL player. And this pick right here for me of James Pierce is as safe as it could get, honestly.
No, I love James Pierce, and what I think bodes well for him a little bit is it seems like in recent years the teams don't really take the off the field or the antics that players show into consideration as much as they used to. I mean, you look at like a Jalen Carter, he had some baggage, but he was an absolute animal for the Eagles this past year. And go a few years back with Larry Tunsil, you know, the night of the draft, he got a picture comes of him smoking, illegal drugs, and he falls and then ends up being amazing. So teams kind of see through that. And, you know, the fact that he runs a 4.47 at that big, 6'5", 245, I don't know how that's humanly possible, especially for an interior lineman. That's just insane. James Pierce, I think you're right, is one of the easiest, most safe picks I feel like in this draft. So that was good. That was a good one to throw in here, Colin. My guy I'm going to talk about last year, I kind of mentioned earlier, he's a cornerback. I think he's probably the best cornerback in this draft. If you take out the possibility of Travis Hunter, probably on the receiver, I think it's Will Johnson. He was the best player on Michigan's defense this year and the national championship year, the year before. And I think the reason you can say that is you look at the guy that was across from him, Mike Sanders, still got drafted last year, went to Washington and was an absolute animal for them, and Will Johnson was better. Will Johnson doesn't have a whole lot of stats, and that's simply because the teams did not throw at him. He locked down everybody. He was pass breakups when they didn't throw the ball. He can stuff the run, and he can guard across the middle and deep as well. Well-rounded. Yeah, he didn't run the fastest 40 all possible. Like, he's not in the 4.3s like you see a lot of these cornerbacks. But that doesn't really matter a whole lot. I don't feel like as much in the cornerback position as NFL teams tend to think that it does. So I like Will Johnson. I think he's the best secondary player in this draft, and any team that gets him is going to be very happy. I went chalky in the defense side.
No, I mean, hey, sometimes chalky is the right answer, and I feel like Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron are 1A, 1B. Like, I really do. And Will Johnson is a certified freak too at the cornerback position. To your point, teams just didn't throw at him. Oh, Will Johnson's over here on the left, on the short side of the field. Well, we're going to go to the right on the wide side of the field. Vice versa. They just did not throw Will Johnson's way. Totally makes sense why. And I would feel comfortable with Abdul Carter, Will Johnson, James Pierce, Jahdae Barron, and obviously I would feel comfortable with Dave's pick. Dave's comfort pick that he, when in doubt, always goes to, and Travis Hunter. So, I mean, all these guys are truly certified freaks on the defensive side of the ball. Dave, take us to the sleepers, and then we're going to get out of here.
Yeah, so the sleepers, I'm almost upset that I have to have this guy as a sleeper because I don't think he's a sleeper. So sleeper for me is Cam Scatterbo. I mean, we talked about how an amazing of a performance he had at the playoffs. I mean, the guy just dominated. And I was kind of skeptical going into the playoffs on, okay, well, let's see if he really, performs at that level. I mean, 103 forced missed tackles throughout the season. And, again, produced at the highest levels. I mean, even though Arizona did lose, he still put on a hell of a show. I mean, you could almost argue that you put him on any other team, he's going to win the game for you. I mean, he did.
While being sick. He was also sick.
Exactly. I mean, I just love how he can change direction so quickly. He's so good at finding those gaps. But I will say the only downside that I could find on him, because I always like to always look at the downside, is he doesn't really have the speed once he breaks out. And at the NFL level, everyone's fast. So that's my only concern is yes, he may be able to break tackles, evade defenders, but once he's, in the clear, like I think a lot of maybe at the NFL level, I think he will get caught, you know.
Oh yeah.
These players will catch him at the level, and that's my only concern is he's. I mean, I still think he's going to be successful, but that is my only concern is he's not going to get as many yards as he did at the college level because again, the speed is just so much faster at the NFL level. Or Brian, what do you think? Because you more are NFL guy, so I just feel like at the NFL level, it's going to be harder for him because he doesn't have that burst of speed.
Yeah, I feel like at the NFL level, I think speed means the most of the running back position, like you're talking about. Um, but with him being so good at finding, that zone gap or the outside edge when the defensive end dives in or something along those lines, he's going to get 10, 15 yards before he really has to worry about getting tackled. He's that good, I think. Now he's not the best at catching passes, so teams might kind of hone in on, this guy's not going to run a flat route out into the flat and beat us that way. And they might hone in on him running the football, which could hurt him. But I like Cam Scatterbo. This is a great pick. I think he's probably the best player in this draft as far as I'm going to be a team player. I'm going to put this team on my back and I'm going to run through your head. And if you don't tackle me, sorry. He's that guy in this draft, in my opinion. And he made himself some money in the college football playoff last year on the showing he put out. So there is some concerns, but there's concerns with everybody that's not drafted in the top 10. So I think this is a great sleeper pick.
He's the guy that's gonna run through a mother lover's face. Like
Absolutely.
it's 3rd and 1. I'm giving the ball to Cam Scatterbo. He's gonna get the first down, right? But
He's like
to your
Marshawn
point,
Lynch almost.
yeah,
It's not crazy.
yeah, just not absolutely nuts. But you're right, Dave. I mean, the guy ran a 4.6 5.40 at the combine. That's not what teams are going to fall in love with. That is a
I
major.
think I can run that.
I talked about James Pierce, who's 6'5", 245, and he ran a 4.45 or 4.47. Sorry. So I mean, this is not breakaway speed, but yes, like we also just said, if you need a first down on 3rd and 1, he's going to get the ball, and he's more times than not going to get you that first down. So I do like that he's a sleeper pick. I do think that's honestly a fair spot for him. I made the case earlier that I do feel like all those running backs could also make their case to go be first-round picks, and I love Cam Scatterbo. Bryant, you're right. He's the ultimate team player. Love everything he brings to the table. So, honestly, Dave, great pick. Really anxious to see how this works out for Cam and to see where he ends up. And I think in the right situation, yeah, I think he can make some noise. So, love the pick. Bryant, give us some of these guys that you got on your radar here later in the draft.
My first guy I'm picking as a sleeper is at the running back position. Projected to go second day, late, third, fourth round, somewhere in there. And that's RJ Harvey out of UCF. The dude had over 1,700 yards last year, and the year before that, he had just under 1,700 yards. Catch the ball, he can run the ball through the tackles. This guy's dynamic as dynamic gets, and reminds me a lot of Austin Eckler. And Eckler kind of went in this area in the draft as well. So I think that's a guy to watch out for. Yeah, this is a running back heavy draft, but this is a guy being slept on. I think a whole lot. The dude does not fumble. He has 0 fumbles in his career. So that's another big playing point for him as well. Takes care of the ball and gets the job done whatever you ask him to do. So I think my first sleeper in this draft is RJ Harvey, running back UCF. And they played pretty good teams. It's not like you can say that this guy's out of Marshall and he played in the MAC on Tuesday nights. He played the Big 12 this year. So good teams. They're not the SEC, but they're not, like I mentioned, MAC teams either. So I think he's my first sleeper.
Man, I was a big fan of RJ Harvey. Had him on one of my fantasy teams last year in college football, and he really is an absolute certified stud. And you can feel comfortable with him week in and week out to make a difference for your football team. Great pass catcher, if I recall correctly. I mean, this was really a do it all running back, and I'm a big fan of what he has to bring to the table. My first sleeper that I'm going to talk about here a little bit is I'm going to go back and kind of hinted at this earlier to the quarterback position. I think this guy is falling down draft boards, not necessarily falling down draft boards. I guess he never started high on draft boards. And it's Kyle McCord, quarterback from Syracuse. Some of you casuals out there that listen to this might only remember him from Ohio State and the baggage that they said he had at Ohio State and how he was the problem. I understand he left the program and they went and won a national championship, but there was a lot of things different for this football team this year than there was the year that he was there. I think the number one difference being Chip Kelly calling plays and it not being Ryan Day. I think you keep Kyle McCord with Ohio State with Chip Kelly calling the plays rather than Ryan Day, and I think Ohio State was even better this season than what they would have been even winning the national championship with Will Howard. Kyle McCord's better than Will Howard. I'm here to say it right now. Kyle McCord went in, put a dagger right through Cam Ward, who we're talking earlier how was the first pick in the draft. It ended his season. Ended it right there on the football field, went out, outdueled him, played a damn good football game, lit the whole season up with 4,700 yards, 34 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He's 6'3", 220, great passer, reliable in the pocket, can read a defense. For the most part, does take care of the football. And with those numbers, let's be honest, fellas, if it wasn't so star-studded, we would have been having a conversation about how a quarterback from Syracuse might win the damn Heisman. I mean, this dude lit it up. And the fact that he's getting no love out here, I feel like it all comes because of his Ohio State hate at this point. Kyle McCord's the real deal, man. He falls into the right situation, and he's going to be a later quarterback that gets picked that kind of comes out of nowhere for a lot of people that don't know much about college football or NFL football.
To be honest, Colin, I was going to put Kyle McCord in here before I saw you already had him on here to talk about. So I 100% agree with you. If we were to go to deeper than 3 on our quarterback talk earlier, he was number 4 for me. So Kyle McCord, he does it all, and I think he proved he was good at Ohio State, even though he left, and he was an absolute dog last year at Syracuse. So that is a wonderful pick. I think a great sleeper, and he could possibly be one of the better quarterbacks out of this draft. I 100% follow you on that. I'm going to move to the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with Colin's pick from Texas. Teammate Andrew Makuba, safety, University of Texas, 3-year starter. He had 5 interceptions last year and 69 tackles. This dude's all over the field as a safety. Yeah, he's a little smaller, but man, this dude is really good. He can defend just about anybody. He can move down into the box and be kind of the nickel type guy, like you saw with him do on the Texas defense this past season. So watch for him. He's looking to go in the 3rd, 4th round. I think he should definitely be going higher than that. Possibly could sneak up there with how well he's been doing in the offseason with pro days and the combine. So I'm going to go with Andrew Makuba. I think this is another big-time sleeper, guy that's played in a lot of big games as well, and was really one of the backbones besides Barron on that Texas defense last season.
Dude, I love Andrew Makuba. We talked about
Absolutely.
him in the playoff games, talked about how he was a true X factor for that defense. He's a guy that'll walk down, fill the gap, and knock your dick in the dirt, dude. I mean, Andrew Makuba is a hard-nosed football player. Big fan of what Makuba brings to the table. Flipping back to the offensive side of the football, the second to last player that I'm going to talk about for me in this draft is Ricky White, wide receiver from UNLV. This guy is not getting talked about much at all. And I get it, man. Did not have the best combine, didn't put up the fastest 40 time. And I'm here to tell you one thing about these 40 times, and I talked about how they were spicy and how they really will build up some of these guys and make them even better coming into the draft. But let's be honest, man. Somebody gets behind you and you catch a pass and you're out in the open, somebody gets behind you, you're probably going to run a faster 40 time in that scenario than what you're going to lining up at a combine, dropping down into your 3-point stance and taking off. I think he's faster than what his 40 time showed, and I think Ricky White's a very reliable receiver. I think he's got damn good hands, and I think the fact that some of these people out there in the drafts and some of these teams are doubting him, I think makes him more of an X factor coming into a team that he gets on. And I don't necessarily know where he's going to wind up in this draft. Hell, he may not get drafted. I feel like that's a far stretch, but hell, he may not. You just never know how these things shake out. But I like what he brings to the table. And I think if he finds the right situation, I think he'll climb up draft boards in the camps during the offseason. And I think he'll work his way onto a very good position for his career. I really like Ricky White. I really liked watching him at UNLV. I think he's a great route runner. I think he gets separation, and I think he's a great security blanket for a quarterback out there. And hell, fellas, at one point he was leading the country in top blocked punts. I mean, if you can't find something else for him to do at the receiver position, I guess sprinkle his ass out there on special teams and let him go block a punt. He's got to be semi-fast if he's leading the country in block punts.
Ricky White is definitely a great player. I had him on a fantasy team, and he put up really good stats, even with not the best or the best quarterback play at UNLV last season, with him switching back and forth a few times there. I definitely agree with you. Ricky White kind of reminds me. I'm not saying he's going to be Cooper Kupp, but his film from college kind of looks that way. He's not the fastest guy on the field, but he seems like always be open. So
Yeah.
I think he could be that type of player. I think his best case scenario from his standpoint is going to be a wide receiver 2-3 with maybe a really good receiver already on that team, and he can kind of fill in and do the best he can without being the number one guy and everybody honing in on him. I think that's his best route to a good career in the NFL, and I think that's where he's going to fall. Like you said, I don't know where he's going to go. His metrics are kind of all over the board as far as where he's slated to be picked. So we'll see, but he's going to be an exciting pick. I'd love for my team to pick him fifth, sixth round. I think that'd be a great pickup no matter where he goes that late. So I agree with you on Ricky White.
He's definitely that guy. Like the quarterback's just like, oh hell, Ricky's down there somewhere. Ricky's open somewhere. Like I'm just gonna throw it this side of the field. He'll find the football. That's what Ricky does, man. I hope it works out for him. Very entertaining player to watch, and I feel like most people didn't watch him play due to being in the Mountain West Conference. But man, he was the real backbone. I felt like for that UNLV football team offensively.
Absolutely. For my last guy, I'm going to switch back to defense here, and I'm going to go with Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, defensive end. This guy is all over the field. I got to see it in person when Mizzou played Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. He probably had 5 sacks in that game. And then last season, you saw that in the playoffs as well as the regular season. Dude had 9 sacks, a pick, 3 forced fumbles, and 60 tackles at the defensive side of the football, which teams did not run to his side at all, hardly. He had to make plays on the opposite side of the field or sacking the quarterback. This guy is extremely talented. I think you could compare him to where he's going in this draft, kind of where Max Crosby went. Max Crosby was a 5th-round pick. That's where Jack Sawyer is kind of going. Not saying he's Max Crosby, but this guy has the potential to be that good. So Jack Sawyer is my last pick, sleeper. I think he needs to be on everybody's radar, and it doesn't seem to be. He's on NFL teams' radar as high as he should be at this point.
It sounds like a stretch almost, Bryant, but I like the Max Crosby comp here a little bit. I really do. I think it's a good comp. You come out of the draft and you're in the 5th, 6th round, whatever. It's the kind of not the highest of high expectations. A lot of the casuals out there that probably didn't even follow their team that far into the draft. And next thing you know, they're telling you 2 months later that, oh, Jack Sawyer is my favorite player on my team. Like that's just kind of how the Jack Sawyer, the Max Crosby thing kind of shook out. And I like the comp a lot. To stay on the defensive side of the ball for my last pick, I'm going to talk about a guy who I feel like was arguably the best player on the Oklahoma Sooners last year, who to Oklahoma standards had a troubling season, but that's Danny Stutzman, the linebacker from Oklahoma. This guy, like, you heard so many Oklahoma fans call him the next Boz, like the next Brian Bosworth for that football team. Kind of wore a neck roll here and there, like just a beefcake out on the football field, roaming around, looking to knock a mother lover's face in. Like I said earlier, I mean, he checks in at 6'4", 240. He can take up pass blockers. He's a hell of a penetrator at the point of attack, gets sideline to sideline, and is a true problem for opposing teams. And honestly, for his size too, he can drop back and play. Yeah, he can drop back and play some zone coverage, man. He ran a 4.5, 240. I mean, he can drop back and take some tight ends out of the equation, take some slot receivers out of the equation, coming across the middle, and then put them in a casket because he's going to knock their dick in the dirt. I mean, this guy, I really like what Danny Stutzman brings to the table. I really do think he's a gamer. He loves to hit people, has a true knowledge for the position, and I'm a big fan of his. I couldn't stand him as a Mizzou fan when he played at Oklahoma, but that was for the right reasons, right? I mean, you don't like other teams' bad players. You don't dislike other teams' bad players. You like their bad players. I dislike Danny Stutzman because he was so damn good. And when we talked about the Mizzou-Oklahoma game, we said, when you're watching this football game, be on the lookout for this guy to be a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball. And I feel like, dude, where you can get this guy, I feel like he's a very safe pick.
100%. Just to end on Danny Stutzman here, I think this guy has Luke Kuechly upside as far as the linebacker is concerned. Like you mentioned, he can stop the run. We're not worried about that, but he can also cover anybody except for maybe a wide receiver one, but he's not going to be matched up against them. So, dude checks all the boxes. I think Mel Kiper has him at like fifth or sixth in the linebacker position, which I think is a joke. But I also think Mel Kiper is not the best at his job, but
Yeah,
that's another fact. So I agree with you, Danny Stutzman, mega sleeper. Back to just like I said with Jack Sawyer, he's going to be loved by the fans no matter where he goes, even if it's late.
I'll be honest, Brian. I definitely think he should be higher than fifth or sixth linebacker, but I didn't even know that people were giving him that high of a ranking. Like at one point, I mean, he was really sliding down. And also to your point, I don't look at anything Mel Kiper does. So I mean, this is all just from the heart here, knowing names that are kind of in this situation. So yeah, be on the lookout for some of these guys. I really do think that a couple of these guys that we touched on here in the sleeper category, I think they'll be a hit. I mean, obviously we throw enough names around, you're going to hit a couple, but I feel like truly a couple of these guys will be a hit, and I really like what some of these players can bring to the table for their teams. So, fellas, if you guys don't have anything else, I have nothing else either. I'm looking forward to the draft, and I'm going to sit back and talk to Bryant and Dave. The draft is next Thursday, which would be the 24th, I think we talked about. And we may get back out with another episode about the draft before the draft comes out. We may even turn the page and get back to some conference reviews because things are starting to get spicy. The spring training portal just opened up for college football, so things are really getting spicy. Got some big names hitting the portal. Dave kind of hinted at it earlier. I mean, we got Nico Iamaleava entering the transfer portal. I love that the Tennessee
I think
fans
he's already
are
at
on that.
UCLA.
Oh yeah, he's back, dude. He's gone. I just
saw
love
that
how the
was
Tennessee fans. I love how they're literally calling him Nico Iamaleava because if you break his last name now, it really kind of looks like that. So I love it, and yeah, man, I can't wait to really dissect that spring training or spring transfer portal and get things back on track here for Deep Threat Sports Network college football. This has been tons of fun. Dave, Brian, you got anything else you want to add here about the draft before we get out of here? Or what direction you want us to go next week?
I'm good, man. I'd like to talk to transfer portal next week. I think that's the most pertinent topic at this point because it will actually end on the day of the draft. So um, this is a great show to kind of talk about the guys that we saw and talked about all last season, get their shot to go to the NFL and make an impact there. And I know all of us watch the NFL and have fantasy football teams too. So kind of pertinent from that standpoint as well. But yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I think this was a good overarching show on who we thought was there and maybe some sleepers along the way.
Dave, how are you? Good?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think talking transfer portal will be big because at that point things will kind of get more serious too in regards to like who's going into the transfer portal, who's committed anywhere. Because I mean we're already starting to see it now, but yeah, I mean,
well at this time next week too. Next Wednesday, the night before the draft. Yeah, to your point, Brian. I mean the rosters are pretty well set at that point. I mean they are what they are. You got what you got, and you're moving along with it. So yeah, we'll go that direction. And we'll pop out an episode next week over the transfer portal. That will be tons of fun as always. But hey, once again, that's Dave. That's Brian. I'm Colin here with you on Deep Threat Sports Network. Getting settled back in here, getting to the routine. We're checking off the boxes, checking off the weeks before college football is fully back. I know all of us are super excited, but some exciting topics along the way that we have to cover before the season gets here. You can follow us on X at DT_sports_. Instagram, Deep Threat Sports with a Z. Facebook, Deep Threat Sports Network. YouTube, Deep Threat Sports. Spotify, Deep Threat Sports. Dave, Bryant, I'm Colin. Y'all have a good time out there. This was tons of fun. Until next time, fellas. Peace.